And without further ado, I present to you Dr. Charles S. Finch.
Good afternoon. I would like to reintroduce myself. I am Charles Finch, Charles S. Finch, and I am your host and presenter for this webinar, The Wheel of Heaven, Ancient Africa and Cosmic Time. This is the fourth in our webinar series. Those of you who have tuned in over the last 10 or 15 minutes were treated to the music of none other than John Coltrane, otherwise known as Onadaru. The Wheel of Heaven, Ancient Africa and Cosmic Time, because when we start talking about Ancient Africa, Nile Valley civilization, in particular, they in a sense invented or brought to us our concept of time in the kind of specific and material way, but also connecting that to cosmic time. And one of the things that we hope to show is the way in which human history on this earth, is connected to the ancient African idea of cosmic time. Now, I have shown this particular slide and some of the slides that are coming on many different occasions, and some of you who are tuning in the webinar may have seen these and are therefore familiar with the concepts, at least to some extent, that we are going to present today. The first thing that is important to understand is the manner in which the Earth itself spins and rotates. Now, the Earth spins on its axis. We know that. That's how we get day to night, night to day, as the Earth revolves around the sun. That's its second motion, shall we say. But there is a third motion. Now, in order to understand this third motion, this is what this top shows. You have to understand that there are two axes. There's a vertical axis. You can see that in the middle of that cone. That is the vertical axis called the axis of the ecliptic. Okay? The ecliptic, axis of the ecliptic. That's the vertical axis. Now, the Earth, however, does not spin straight up and down, okay, any more than this top does. And because it does not spin straight up and down, it wobbles, or shall we say gyrates. Now, we should say that the reason why it does not spin straight up and down is because of the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon, which tilts the Earth 23.5 degrees from vertical. What happens, therefore, is that not only does it spin on its axis, rotate around the sun in a period of 365 days, it also gyrates the axis, the tilted axis, the celestial pole, the tilted axis, gyrates around the vertical pole, as we see, and that period takes 26,000 years, just the way a top does. So that spin of the top gives you some concept of what it looks like. And we're going to kind of see a lot of slides dealing with this concept, so we can kind of really drive it home as to what it is we're talking about and what it is that is at the root of this whole concept of cosmic time, where the ancient people of Nile Valley in Africa were concerned. Now, this is called the precession of the equinoxes. This is a schematic. It just shows you kind of the same thing of the Earth rotating around, the celestial north pole of the Earth, rotating around the north pole of the ecliptic. And as I say, we have three motions. I've already said this, and we'll have an opportunity and perhaps a reason to keep saying it. There is the spin, which is a spin that lasts for 24 hours. We know about that. That causes our day and night shifts. Then there's a rotation around the sun. That is 365.25 days. So that's the second rotation. And this is the third, the celestial north pole gyrating slowly around the north pole of the ecliptic. And that takes 26,000 years. And this causes which is known as the precession. And we'll try to define and explain that as we go along. In this case, it's a precession of the equinoxes, but it's not only the equinoxes, by the way, and we'll say this over and over again. Some of the things we say will be a little bit repetitive. I was once told long ago that repetition is the essence of learning. It's also the precession of the pole stars, because in a sense, there are two cycles that we're looking at. Because this 26,000 year cycle that you're looking at up in this slide is called the Great Year. And there are two phenomenon that define this great year, both of them the exact same length of time, created by this tilted axis of the celestial North Pole rotating around the North Pole of the ecliptic. Again, this is another schematic of the ecliptic and the celestial poles of Earth. Okay? Again, it's showing you pretty much the same thing. And you see the Earth tilted that way. And also it's called the plane of the ecliptic. The plane of the ecliptic is actually the Earth's rotation around the Sun, and therefore its axis, normally the axis would be vertical because of the rotation around the Sun is like on a horizontal axis. But as I say, there's a tilt because of this gravitational pull. So you see those two axes there on the upper third of that slide. One is going straight up and down, that's the pole of the ecliptic, and one is tilted, that's the magnetic North Pole. And you can see the Sun there represented schematically on about halfway down the slide. That is what the ecliptic refers to. You can see that the vertical North Pole is vertical in relationship to the movement around the Sun. Okay, and however, the movement of the celestial North Pole is tilted, so that's why we got this gyration. I keep repeating this because it's important to try to grasp this as well as one can, all right? But again, I want you to look at that Sun figure on the left, and that is the rotation, as it were. It appears that the Sun is rotating around the Earth. That's just a perceptual thing for us standing on Earth, but really it's Earth revolving around the Sun. I want to show you the so-called Egyptian Zodiac. All right, this looks very much like our Zodiac that we know today. This is a late version of the Egyptian Zodiac. Okay, very similar and almost identical, really, to the Zodiac we understand today. You can see the various zodiacal signs, which are constellation signs, starting from Aries and coming all the way to Pisces. And we're actually going to go through each one of these symbol signs as we have this discussion, okay? And you can see the ones that are familiar to all of us: Aries, Taurus, the twins, which are Gemini. Cancer, which is actually in ancient Egypt was not the crab, it was actually the scarab beetle. The lion, Virgo the Virgin, which is Isis. Ma'at, the balance scale, which is also Libra. Scorpio on the far right, the Scorpio, the scorpion, Serket in ancient Egypt. And then that is Sagittarius, and the Capricorn, the sea goat, and Aquarius below on the lower left, and the devil fishes of Pisces. And we will actually go through each one of these as part of our discussion today.